Good morning, YouTubers. Today I'm going to review what was one of my favorite games growing up, Bionic Commando. While not the most popular game at the time, it was still well known to gamers of the 80s. The game was released by Capcom, who is probably best known for Street Fighter II, and really all the Street Fighter II sequels, which were all also called Street Fighter II. Even at the time, I never understood that marketing tactic. If it's a sequel, why not just call it Street Fighter III? There actually was a Street Fighter III released as an arcade in 1997, but let's face it, we all remember seeing the endless Street Fighter II sequels. Leaving out the Anniversary Edition, there were 6 Street Fighter II games, and I'm not counting one console's version over another. 6 different games thrown across 22 different consoles. You had Street Fighter II, the World Warrior, Champion Edition, Turbo Hyper Fighting, the New Challengers, Grandmaster Challenge, Grandmaster Flash Challenge, Afternoon Tea Edition, the list goes on and on. Moving on to Bionic Commando. Like many games of the time, Bionic Commando was ported to the NES in 1987 after it was already an arcade game. The most notable aspect of the game is the main character uses a bionic arm equipped with a grappling gun that he uses to swing to his destination instead of jumping. Wait, you can't jump in the game? Well, no. Instead of jumping, you swing across like this. Personally, I found this one of the more appealing aspects of the game. It takes a little getting used to and can be challenging at times. However, it can also serve as a benefit if you fall. The game's origins actually come from a 1983 arcade game from Konami called Rock and Rope, where you play a harpoon-wielding archaeologist who has to avoid humanoid dinosaur-like creatures and cavemen. Takuro Fujiwara designed the game for Konami, and when he left and joined Capcom, he used this concept for Bionic Commando, which is actually a sequel to their 1985 arcade hit, Commando, which is really just a generic shoot-'em-up military game. Even the poster is generic. Look at it. Destroy the enemy army? That could be the tagline for practically any game. In Japan, the original Commando had its own series of sequels, but outside Japan, Capcom used Bionic Commando as its starting sequel. In Bionic Commando, you actually play as a soldier named Nathan Rad Spencer. It was the 80s, so everything was rad back then. Your mission is to find Super Joe, who happens to be the hero from the original Commando. The instruction manual for the original arcade version of Bionic Commando gives a setting of the game as 10 years after a world war involving 2 different factions, the Federation and the Empire. That's original. I won't speculate on which group these guys are supposed to be, but judging by the artwork, I did not see a resemblance to anyone. Actually, that guy does kind of look like Hugo Chavez, which might explain the whole conspiracy theory of Hitler escaping to South America. I wonder if the Japanese version of the game is any different than the North American. Holy shnikes! I think it goes without saying who these guys are supposed to be now. And why only have actual Nazis in the Japanese version? Did they think Americans wouldn't want to pounce on some futuristic Nazis? And what is with the flag? It looks like something Barry Allen would wear if he was a white supremacist. Anyway, the Imperial leader / Hugo Chavez Hitler apparently found an old manuscript titled Albatross, in which it describes an unfinished project started by the Empire's predecessor, the Bads. Apparently, Hugo Chavez Hitler never paid attention in English class, because we all know how many awesome things happen when an albatross is involved. So now, Hugo Chavez Hitler proceeds with finishing the project, and the Federation sends Super Joe to stop him. But Super Joe gets caught, and now the Federation sends in Rad Spencer. That really doesn't make me think the Federation has the most confidence in this guy. I mean, Super Joe is the best fighter in the Federation and he got caught. So now they send in you, not the best fighter in the Federation, and somehow you're supposed to do what Super Joe couldn't do, what they didn't think you were even capable of doing in the first place? I just don't feel like they have a whole lot of faith in this guy's abilities. Anyway, the time period is 10 years after these 2 superpowers fought a world war, and supposedly in the 1980s. Obviously in an alternate universe, but I'm not sure why they left the last number of the year as an X. I mean, is it really that hard to just pick a number? Were the programmers waiting to see exactly which year the game would be released and forgot to put it in? And what does it matter? It's not even supposed to be historically accurate. Just pick a number! Bionic Commando is a little different in its gameplay, in that you can move from area to area, entering again when needed. Some areas are combat zones, while others serve as hospital zones, all of which are technically enemy zones. Oh boy, that does not look good. You transport from area to area via helicopter, Those trucks are actually enemy trucks, and if your helicopter intercepts one, you have to fight the enemy in this overhead view. When you descend into an area, you select a weapon, a protective device, a communication device, and an additional special weapon. In each combat level, you have to find a communications room or rooms before proceeding with clearing the stage. Another unusual aspect is starting out, you don't have to actually clear a zone in order to move to another one. The communications you receive are usually pretty vague, like don't get caught, don't die, things like that. I guess they failed to give Super Joe that advice, and you see what happened. Bionic Commando did have a Game Boy version released in 1992, followed by a remake in 2008 with Bionic Commando Rearmed for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. Actually, that guy looks a little too happy to be fighting Nazis, and this time there's no sugarcoating it. That guy is clearly a Nazi. Either that or he's a very dedicated Broadway singer. Followed by its sequel, Bionic Commando Rearmed 2 in 2011. Oh, come on! That guy is way too happy to be fighting Nazis. While those two games started out as remakes, there was another game that was a direct sequel to the original game? Did I read that right? Yeah. In 2009, Bionic Commando was released as a sequel for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. Okay, hold on, man. I gotta wrap my head around this. Commando was the original game, released in 1985. Bionic Commando was its sequel, released in 1987, followed by a remake, Bionic Commando Rearmed, in 2008, which had its own sequel, Bionic Commando Rearmed 2, in 2011. However, the 2009 Bionic Commando was an actual sequel to the 1987 Bionic Commando, which was in turn a sequel to 1985's Commando, all released by Capcom. It seems like the Bionic Commando games themselves have their own alternate universe. And you'd think I was collecting royalties every time I said the word Commando. Commando, there, I collected another 3 cents. Based on this and the Street Fighter II series, it makes me wonder if there's some guy at Capcom who's been trying to win a bet with a coworker over the last 30 years. Well, that is it for this episode of The Bearded Nerd. Thanks for watching. Click the subscribe button if you want to keep up with future videos, and feel free to write hateful comments below. See you next time.